I was doing research part-time on a particular species of frog called the Cascade green tree frog. At the same site we had the gastric brooding frog, the southern gastric brooding frog, and in 1979 when I was transferred north, I got a message towards the end of 79 that they could not find these two species of frog. And I thought, oh, this is impossible because they were quite common, there was no doubt about it. And I went back down and discovered that they were right. The frogs had, in inverted commas, disappeared. But they were so common, and I was getting this funny feeling that something was going wrong. It turned into a massive mystery.
The timescale was very, very rapid. Essentially, the frogs seemed to be there in pretty well normal numbers, and then essentially we weren't getting any frogs over one winter, and we didn't think too much about that because often you don't get many frogs in winter just because of the cooler conditions. But simply the frogs failed to reappear the following spring and simply haven't appeared since that time. So in fact they went from being in normal numbers through to being virtually zilch within just a few months.
I've come to Australia in search of the missing frogs. They live in the wet tropics rainforests in far north Queensland, or at least they used to. I've come well prepared for the task ahead. A torch for night work, my bush hat and raincoat to cope with the wet season, and a tape recorder to record the frogs and my diary. My only clues to finding the frogs are a map of the last known whereabouts and a recording made before their disappearance. As part of my biological research into the rainforest frogs, I will try and find them and tape their croaks. Not an easy task, as no one has seen or heard them for over 6 years. To have any remote chance of success, I will have to live and work deep in the rainforest. Still, according to my coffee table books, it looks delightful. The sun sets. God, very large insect just bust straight over my head. I'll start again. The sun sets just after 7 in the tropics. Frogs will start up calling. The forest can sometimes be painfully loud. This is Monday. This is diary 2. Driving at night is tricky at best, but driving at night on a very small, windy dirt track bordered on each side by rainforest, plus the fact you have to avoid wildlife that decide to run across the road. Tonight, a small hoppy bouncy skippy thing of the marsupial macropod type thing decided to run straight across and then at me, but I slowed and it decided to not run under my wheel. There's also a small little marsupial mouse bounced across, and the ever-present rabbit. What a rabbit is doing in a rainforest I don't quite know. I've just finished a night's work. Working tonight was slightly more troublesome than usual. Kirrama State Forest Road has a reputation, not just from one person, but from every single person I've talked to. Don't stray from the road. Don't go anywhere that you're not meant to be. There apparently is a vast, marijuana growing syndicate, if you like, that use state forests of Australia. This is just going on hearsay, but when everyone says it, you get the feeling that it might be true. Rumours are rife, all sorts of different traps, man traps, shotguns attached to tripwires. So if I heard a frog in the distance, he stayed in the distance and I stayed where I was.
The view from my door, from all sides, I see the dense forest canopy of the rainforest itself, and the thick, dense floor. What am I talking about? the thick, dense leaf litter comes to my very doorstep.
I'm very tired. Frogs have a very annoying habit that when you pick them up, they will urinate projectilely on your hands. And so my hands now smell and are covered with grime. I smell and I'm covered with grime as well. There's no shower facility here at Kirrama. In fact, there's nothing here at Kirrama. It's very quiet outside. As soon as the birds shut up, it's just a few insects and that's it.
One evening I sought the help of expert frogger Keith MacDonald from the Queensland Department of Environment. He's been a researcher for many years and has developed quite a strong emotional attachment to the frogs. He has discovered many new species, but sadly he has also witnessed their rapid decline.
We're coming down onto the creek now. What we're looking for is a couple of species that have declined or disappeared from these upland areas. And as we look along here, if we look on the branches overhanging the water, you'll see, or if they are here, and it'll surprise me if they are because we've looked here a lot before, we see the Australian lace-lid. It makes a call like a yak, yak, yak. Over here near the rapids, you can hear in the background there, we should hear the common mist frog, and its calls are rick, rick, rick. And it'll sit on the rocks in those rapids and call away, but I can't hear any at the moment, and we would hear them if they were there.
So how long ago did you last have a record of either of the frogs hiss here?
Up on these upland areas around here is about 1991. Why? You know, this is a big question, isn't it?
It must be pretty sad for you,
Oh, it is.
to see them go.
You bear in mind, I've been doing this for 27 years, and I knew these frogs, and they were common, and there's no way colleagues and myself even anticipated this dramatic, and I use the word dramatic not lightly, declines of the species. You know, when you're working on a population and within 3 months you go from 72 on 100 metres a stream down to 0, it is a bloody shock. When it first happened, there was total bewilderment. You know, we just could not understand it. We looked for the obvious things like, were we in a drought? Had we had some atypical environmental event take place? And, you know, when we couldn't link it to that, tried rebuilding and understanding what was going on in retrospect. And it's very difficult when you're not measuring some of these environmental effects to try and construct a picture in retrospect. The one that really hit me fairly hard emotionally, and bearing in mind I was trying to examine this problem rather objectively, it was when the gastric brooding frog, the northern gastric brooding frog at Youngler, disappeared over a 3-month period. This was a unique animal. You know,
it's pretty fascinating.
It's a worldwide animal, well known worldwide because of its ability to nurture its young in the stomach and then, if you like, spit them out, to put it in simple terms, as fully developed froglets. There was a lot of questions that were raised, how they did it and why they did it, and etc. But we never even got the chance to do any work on that before they disappeared. I just couldn't believe it when it did happen. you'd sit on the stream you'd been visiting every month for a week at a time, and there was nothing different. There was no change, no nothing had happened. You know, the stream was still that same stream. There was no walking tracks in the area, there's no roads, there's no airports, there's no big cities close by. You know, the nearest town of about 40,000 people was 80 kilometres away. When we couldn't find the environmental link, if you call it a link, we started to look elsewhere, and this is where the idea of a disease possibly has gone through it. And that, at the moment, is still being tested. Some of the reports we've just recently had indicates that the initial pathology is showing that it is possibly a virus. Unfortunately, we don't have material of freshly or animals that are just dead, just recently died.
An alien virus, or?
I thought I had a frog, sorry. That's a very good question. See, when you look at the world today, England's only 16,000 kilometres away, and I say only, and I don't say it flippantly, because you hop on a plane and 24 hours later you're dropping down into Heathrow.
Righty ho, I'm just going to get rid of a leech. Ooh. No, we've got a completely clear blue sky.
Mm. And a half moon.
And there's Orion.
Yeah.
And absolutely no frogs.
Yes. You know, a lot of these frogs have been around for a few million years, probably. All of a sudden today, they're not. People have been saying, are they the canary? Like with the miners, it's the canary that's telling us something about the world's environment. But are they the harbingers of doom, if you like?
You mean, say, are they like a marker point, a beacon?
Yeah, it's flashing pretty brightly at the moment, in my opinion. But, you know, unlike the miners, they could walk out of the mine. We can't. And there's a plane taking some disease.
Yeah. It's 3 a.m. If I'm lucky, it will rain. It's Sunday. I haven't seen a drop of rain for well over a week, and the sun is just so hot and everything's so dry that the frogs have dried up. They've stopped calling. Many nights I can't find frogs. Boredom is setting in big time. How's it going?
Back again.
Yes, certainly am. I've got the
Golly, what a setup that is.
Well, it's just a Tupperware box.
That's what I mean, wow.
Is it tricky setting up home here?
Oh, not really. It's just that if you want to be part of the community, you're always left out in the cold, or you're asked to do every job in the book.
You're not classed as a local till you've been here 25. You're just not referred to as a local.
And you've been here 16 years?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Roy wasn't born here, but he's been here since he was about 3-year-old, so he's sort of basically a local.
Roy, come here for a minute.
I hear you're an actual local.
Yes. Well, we've only been here since 1938.
Travelling up the road, I passed what I can only imagine to have been a wallaby. The animal was black. And as with the Lord of the Flies almost can speak to you with their buzzing. It's raining. Oh joy! Oop. Sorry. It's raining! This is the first time it's rained in Mount Lewis, and I'm down here and not up there. The question is, do I now? At midnight, I don't think so. Go up and do some work. So long, I'm off to bed. tonight my prayers were answered in that it has rained. Sadly, it's rained just a little too much. I have never seen so much rain. None of my frogs are calling. All I can hear is rain. So, you know, a little froggy might be calling somewhere, but you can't hear him. There is, however, a little group of frogs which are very excited by the prospect of all this rain, and that is the orange-thighed tree frogs, Littoria xanthomera, and I think I can hear them in the distance. So I've got my umbrella here. I'm completely covered in max. Let's see what we can find. Oh, dear me. Yep, definitely Littoria xanthomera. Oh, I can find them. I can see them. Wonderful frog, about, I don't know, 3 inches long, green on top, sort of orange underneath, and obviously the orange thighs. Yeah, they really are getting excited out here. I think I can hear another call as well. So there may be 2 species out here. I've got a head torch on, but, you know, yes, I think I can definitely hear 2 frogs, 2 species. It's actually getting worse. I really think I've got to get out of here before, I don't know, a tree comes across the path or I get struck by lightning. The frogs I'm looking for are very small, only a couple of centimetres long. You can find frogs by listening to their calls. By using a sort of echolocation, I'm able to follow the song to its point of origin. Now when I set out, my only clue was a sound, but when a frog is dead, it doesn't croak. That's why it's so difficult to find their corpses and the cause of their decline. Biologist Andrew Dennis thinks chemical pollutants makes frogs all over the world susceptible to diseases.
There's frogs all over the world dying for various reasons like habitat destruction and obvious direct pollution and overhunting. But there's still this series of declines that can't be explained, and those sorts of declines are happening all over the world as well. There may be some sort of pollutants, something like the estrogen mimics that are being widely looked at the moment.
What are they and where do you get them from?
They're chemicals that are leaching from things like plastics. They're in surfactants, most surfactants like from detergents, agricultural chemical sprays, which once they are taken into an animal system, bind with the receptor sites that normal hormones would bind with and cause major problems in the animal bodies.
Right, and they act like estrogens?
Yeah, in some cases they act like estrogens, and there's evidence from various researchers in the States showing that alligators are being feminized, the young males aren't actually maturing because of these estrogen mimics. Quite volatile products.
Oh, so they get there from the
basically atmospheric. And they're being volatile and also active in very small quantities. They're quite a dangerous thing. Apparently 1 part per billion or 1 part per trillion is enough to affect an animal system.
Right.
And the frogs in these mountain streams and living in the water will absorb these sorts of pollutants far more readily than any other animal. And what my full theory is that these mimics are causing a stressed population of animals, and then some sort of disease, a local disease, possibly an introduced disease, is getting into this stressed population and wiping it out. And once any disease gets into epidemic proportions, then it's easy for it to wipe out the entire population.
Woke far too early this morning because the sun came straight through a window and it was all far too light, and it meant that I got going quickly, which is all nice, but now it's late and I'm knackered. It's 6 AM and things are looking really, really bad. Working last night was close on a disaster. I spent 3 hours searching, listening. Nothing. I've got the itches. Mosquitoes were becoming a major problem. They've gone beyond an annoyance. Oh, scratch that just a little bit. I am awake. I'm awake because my legs are just in agony. I lost it. What's that? What's that little itchy kind of feeling on my lip? Oh, it's a leech. I am just so tired. My face was just covered with a grimy film. A film composed of sweat, water, insect repellent, frog secretions. Ah. This is diary for the 29th of the 1st, Monday. I went for a glorious swim and listened to the frogs. I'm now sitting by the platypus pool. I can just see the platypus in the pool below me. It's so much smaller than I expected. There's quite a few other frogs calling this evening. Once the noise of the insects died down at about 7:30, it became very quiet. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. I've just finished a hard night's work. There's a very light mist swirling around my legs. In the distance, I can see faint silhouettes of trees, solitary, lonely trees. It's so quiet. After months living and working in the rainforest, I failed to find any of the missing frogs. They seemed to have well and truly disappeared. Fortunately, my mission was partially successful. I managed to record other species that haven't disappeared altogether, but are in decline. I also recorded the very rare black mountain frog. It's only been recorded once before.
I found it calling deep within the eerie boulders of Black Mountain. Just before I finished this program, Dr. Karen Lips of St. Lawrence University in New York stumbled across 50 dead frogs in a Panamanian rainforest. This was the best chance to discover the cause of their deaths. She said, "They looked perfectly alive, as if they were asleep, but they felt hard and leathery, as if they'd been turned into stone by a wicked witch." After further study, a pathologist found an unknown protozoan had infiltrated their skin. Could the same parasite be killing frogs all round the world?
Caddick, arms akimbo across his chest, a fine leg. Here is Headley Inburn. That's a flashing drive by Steve Wall. That's going away towards the cover boundary. Crawley is under.
What an absolutely glorious night. I've taken the night off actual research work, so I thought I'd take advantage of the recent rain and just go frogging in the open savannah. I've had an absolutely brilliant night. I've found about 10 or so species. It's been a dry night as well, which is a change for recently. Driving along, listening to the cricket, just wind down my window, turn the radio down and just go find some frogs. Found some glorious ones this evening, all different calls. In the very far distance, nature has provided me with a sonne-lumière. The lightning storm it must be a long way away, because I can hear no inkling of thunder. Yet I can quite clearly see all different shapes and forms of lightning. 3 or 4 storms. Wow, it's amazing. You could have this ambient frog sound, and it'd be really good if we could have like a symphony orchestra just here on the tarmac of the road. And the orchestra would be synchronized to the lightning flashes, something like the 1812 overture, but instead of having cannons going off, you'd have the lightning flashing. I think it's just gone midnight. I've had a really nice night. It's really nice to get away from it all. The road's a very lonely place, yet the frogs make you feel quite at home.